What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me what no a more. Duck, baby, no don't more. Hurt me, don't hurt me no more. What? No more. Over a month, just give me a pound. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more, no more. Don't hurt me no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more, no more. Do it! What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more, no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more, no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me. You're not fair. I married the bag, but you don't care. I bought the dip for over a month. Just give me a pound. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me no more. What a duck, baby, don't hurt me dip no more, no more. Just give me a pound.
All right, welcome to the broadcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the song What a Dump. It's a solid song to start off today's extravaganza. Hopefully everyone's doing amazing out there. I'm jumping on live today to go through the market update, what's going on, why I think things are happening, and ultimately where I think we're headed. Hopefully you enjoyed the song. I can see the comments. So if you have a coin you want me to look at or something you want me to take a gander at, just drop it in the comments and I will go through those. But let's just get started over here on CoinMarketCap. Let's take a look at the market after we've been dumping for a while. I mean like a day or two. We are currently sitting neutral. So last week when I talked on Tuesday, we were sitting somewhere around here. We were still kind of in the greed zone. Now today we've dropped all the way to neutral, which in my opinion isn't quite where we want it to be. It's probably going to end up somewhere around here when we finally find the bottom, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. Ultimately, though, seeing this come down is a good thing because we're starting to see the capitulation happen. We haven't seen full capitulation, which will be just a straight death candle straight down. So hopefully that happens in the next, I don't know, who knows how long, but we'll see. Over the course of the last week, nothing's really done great. Like everything's pretty much down across the board. There's a couple outliers. I noticed SWE was doing quite well. It was actually up on the day. Some things that like Aptos is kind of moving in the last 24 hours. Some things we're seeing a little bit of a bounce. I'm not necessarily convinced that that's the bottom or something like that. A lot of people are clamoring on Twitter about how they're buying the dip and how it's over and all that, but it's too early to celebrate. We have a couple things that have been performing decently. Like I said, Sweet, Chili's, Blur did okay. This coin up quite a bit. So you can just search here and find all kinds of stuff. You can go dumpster diving as deep as you want and find what's working, what's doing well, and what's not. Ultimately, though, with where we're at in terms of the markets, for me personally, if you're in Dudes Labs, my pick last week wasn't even crypto. I called a stock play. So one thing that's been good about the other side of the market, and good thing that's something that allows you to kind of be flexible, is to be able to shift markets. I mean, the way you do TA and look at it isn't much different, but you look at SPY and the equities, NASDAQ, I mean, they've been crushing it. So we came up here, and then from about January 22nd-ish till about today, we were stuck in the zone, but it finally broke. There's some data that comes out on Friday that should allow it to consistently push. Nothing looks overly bearish or bad from the equity standpoint. In fact, it's an easier market to trade than crypto right now. I mean, we can probably anticipate some sort of pullback. We've had pretty decent moves. Nothing scary or sketchy though right now. The daily, these markets are honestly, they've been way better to trade than crypto. Like let's find, like I said, I called PayPal. I saw PayPal. I was like, wow, this looks really good. PayPal hasn't had a weekly. Obviously, it's had a horrible week so far, but that's just one day. We'll see what it looks like the rest of the week. But it did cross the, oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, geez. Thanks for letting me know. I would have done the whole broadcast without sharing it. Okay. Let's go back and look at that stuff. So when we look at the equity side of things, they've been a lot better to trade. And like I said, it's not really that much different to trade than, it's actually probably easier to trade than crypto because it doesn't move as violently. So you can come in here and SPY looks like it's probably due for a bit of a pullback. I mean, we are at all-time highs though, so that's great. QQQ, NASDAQ, same thing, all-time highs. Nothing really bad. We just basically sprinted right back up. We're in a position now to where we're starting to look like we probably can anticipate some sort of pullback coming up. We've hit all-time highs, so I would anticipate that bringing us down to somewhere on the 4-hour time frame. Maybe we pull back to like this zone. It comes up, and then this catches up, and we pull back somewhere in that zone. Probably what I would be looking at is kind of blue skies at this point because we don't necessarily have anything to really pull from. So I'd probably just look for this trend to continue and expect something in this area to set up a new zone. Now, let me know if I'm sharing my screen. I think I'm sharing it now. But one of the things that I called inside Dudes Labs earlier in the week was PayPal. I thought it looked really good. Just it hasn't had the best couple of days so far. Like Monday wasn't great. And then Tuesday was kind of just sideways, but it did find support. Like I just said with SPY and NASDAQ, it came up, it came back, and it found its 4-hour trend. And now it used that to bounce. So hopefully that continues to drive it. But when I looked at PayPal, what I really liked, when I called this, we were sitting, I think we were down here. We were just below this when I called this in Dudes Labs. And I thought that it had just crossed over on the 50 on the RSI on the daily. I thought it looked good for another push to try to break this area. I thought the 3-day looked really good here. It hit, and it used that to kind of rebound off the 50 up the RSI. AO starting to push back up. The weekly looked good. From over here, we actually hit, and we were able to push back through. And so when I called it down here, we hit this thing, this candle right here. And ultimately what I did was I bought a bunch of stock down here so that way I can just hold that, but bought a bunch of call options here. And then I stacked calls here, and then I sold most of them right here, and kept a few runners. But ultimately this was like a 70% gain in terms of options. And if you're not used to options, it's basically trading like 100x leverage. So it allows you to get a massive amount of value out of a move like this. So now we'll just see where it goes on. I did like how it looked. The other one I was kind of looking at that I think is quite bottomed out quite well might be BABA. We finally kind of hit this bottom area like 57.91, 63.44. We finally see a nice rebound. China had some news about how they're going to stimulate their economy or something like that. So far, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best thing, but I think it's coming up to be a good trade. We've got a reset coming up on the weekly. I would like to see this over 50 and actually clear and not get rejected. As you can see, it tried back here, got rejected, and that resulted in this long-term downtrend. The other thing that I liked that gave me some more confidence in this position is the daily's building it. So last time we wicked upon the daily, we got rejected and died. But now for BABA, it had a pretty hard spike. And this is based off news. So we'll see what happens the rest of the week. But if this can push and then retest and bounce, then what that'll do is that'll translate to the 3-day. And then we'll do the same thing. And then that'll translate to the weekly. And then ultimately this thing has some legs. So for example, if we're in the, oops, if we're in the daily, I would kind of anticipate us to just kind of ride the EMAs. I would say we 83.4 between here is going to be the most challenging zone. When we switch to like a line chart on BABA, we've got resistance at 77 to deal with, somewhere at like 78. We've got some supply zones, 82. So that would be the chop zone. But ultimately, I think it's building up to be what could be a pretty good trade for 2024 because this thing's just been battered and it's finally starting to push back through. So, welcome to the broadcast. If you guys want me to look at anything, make sure you comment down below so I know. Other things that I liked on the equity side are uranium. I've been in uranium since like June. But when we look at uranium, it's coming back through. It's kind of got a nice reset off the 50 on the RSI. When we come through and look at the weekly, it looks like it's tough to tell on the weekly. Might not be in the best position, but ultimately, I think if we can build on the daily and this RSI can consistently drive up and not like a bearish divergence here, then it has some legs. When I originally got in, it was June. So it was down here in the not like 36, 38-ish. It's had a pretty good rally and then it had a cool off. But now it finally broke this resistance, it was basically stuck under since November, broke through, and now it's kind of reaccumulating. And I think this is going to give it a fresh leg. UAC has been one of my top picks too. I had calls on these for a while. Same thing here. We finally broke through this resistance, had been stuck under for a long time, and then printed a couple of red candles, and now it's pushing back up. So it's resetting on that daily. Last one that I think has some potential. Let's find it. Coming into this thing, we'll look at then we'll get into crypto in a second. I know everyone's here for crypto for the most part, even though stocks have been way easier and a lot more profitable to trade. But ultimately, I think weed stocks, there's been some news surrounding the USDA adjusting kind of their policies. So it's actually put it in a pretty good position, like where we've been able to actually push above the 50 on the RSI. The only thing that's scary or sketchy, I guess, is you're kind of waiting for news. The thing that does look good here is this weekly has finally pushed back through. So we've got a good weekly. Even the monthly is starting to push. If the monthly goes through here, it's basically sitting this for a year. But it could have some great potential because then it's like 892. We're looking at 1034, 1106, coming up here to like the 11 zone. Once we clear that, and it pushes up to 13. So I think there's a lot of value to be said if the news continues to be positive for these stocks. So let me know if there's any questions or if you have anything you want me to look at. Ultimately, let's take a look at the Bitcoin picture. Everyone wants to know what Bitcoin's going to do next. Basically, when I called this in Dude's Lab, I said what was going to happen was when I called this, we were down here and I said we were going to come up and we were going to test this 15 and probably get rejected. We did. I anticipated a little more of a fight, though. I mean, I anticipated maybe us coming through and getting rejected, but we just straight got rejected and died. Like what I thought would potentially happen was we'd get rejected here, like on this candle, and I thought this candle would push up into here and then fall straight through, but we just there was zero strength. We were just like dead. And we haven't really seen the RSI on the daily fall through here since October 11th. So when we come back here to October, maybe even before that. Yeah, we fell through back here, August 12th on the daily. Actually, We did fall through it here, October 11th. Yeah. So we fell through it right here momentarily and we had that push. So I figured we'd have a revenge push that was a little stronger, similar to like what happened here. But man, our revenge push was just nothing. It was just dead weight. A floppy banana just fell and died. So that's where we're at now. Kind of, I mean, the AO's crossed over negative, doesn't look great. Ultimately, a lot of people are celebrating like buying the dip and all this, and it's going to come back up. But from what I'm seeing right now, like this daily candle doesn't look great. I mean, the daily closing above here is good. That's the daily EMA 100. So it's a pretty good zone to bounce off of. Obviously, we're going to bounce off of these EMAs, especially the 100 and this 200 will probably have a pretty big bounce. But ultimately, with the way this candle looks, it doesn't necessarily look great. It looks like we're going to close the daily above it. So then I would anticipate we just go sideways for a little bit, or maybe we push back up and test this kind of this zone here in the 40K. 40K is now going to be resistance for us. So maybe we come back up, we test that, and then we reject back down, but it just doesn't seem like the dumping is over. If we lose this on the daily, I would anticipate what happens then if we start capitulating down to this like 35 zone, which puts us on the EMA 200. This I would anticipate should have a decent bounce. Not saying it's going to be the bounce, but this should produce some sort of nice bounce because when it hits that, usually it gives us quite a bit of strength to push through. So we'll kind of see how it goes. Like if we can look back here, when we fell all the way through, when we finally hit the EMA 200, that bounced us all the way back up back in June. So something to pay attention to. I'm not saying that's where it's going to end, but that's ultimately what I would be looking for. Similar situation when we look on like the weekly. When I look over here, we are, in my opinion, what we're probably going to do is the weekly is going to come back here and touch the 50. And by the weekly touching the 50 probably most likely equates to us challenging this zone. And so when we challenge, it kind of depends on the speed of the capitulation, but that probably equates to us challenging this 37K zone, which is the weekly trend. If we lose the weekly trend, we probably move to that, what I just talked about on the daily, like the 35 zone. If we lose that, because like 35 is like the final stand here, then we probably come down here and we test this weekly zone. So 32,107, 30,707, which is going to coincide with like the monthly zone too. So come down here, monthly trend right now, sitting between 30,829 and 32,312. So I think that would be a pretty good zone that we could anticipate to see tested if we capitulate all the way down. Not saying that we will. And similar from situation from the monthly, like we've crossed over, what could potentially happen here is the monthly comes back down and touches here too, which would put us into March. So we come back down, we come down, we either test in February and we start driving back up in March, or February we come down and then March we fully capitulate. In April we start driving back up. So that'd be the kind of timeline that I'd probably be looking at. I wouldn't necessarily say this is going to be just like straight down and fast. It's going to be like done, sideways, done, sideways, done. And then when everybody finally gives up. And likely what would happen here is, from what I would say, this isn't just going to be a touch here. What would happen on this final capitulation is we're probably going to go straight through here. So what I would anticipate is this line being touched or even breached. So that puts us down in like the 26, maybe 28K zone. So what would happen is we'd be like, boop, 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 oh, shit, everything's over. Crypto's dead. Sell all your bags. It's a scam. Gary Gensler was right. And then what'll happen, because this is the monthly, is when everybody gives up and doesn't want to buy this, then all of a sudden the wick will come through and it'll get bought up and it'll close the monthly ideally in this zone. And so if the monthly closes in this zone, we're still safe. If the monthly closes down here, it's over. Just pack your bags and go home, because we lose sort of our bullish momentum. So that's kind of what I would anticipate. I would anticipate us peeling through this, probably touching this, maybe even going through this. I doubt we go that far. That would be insane. I'll put some stink bids down there just in case, but I would anticipate we drive all the way through. Maybe we have a wick down there somewhere, and then the monthly closes up here. So it's not just going to be like a sunshine and gumdrops deal. It's going to be straight through and then probably into this one. So I'd anticipate at least touching probably this zone here and then closing the monthly back above here, which would maintain the bullish structure. If the monthly closes below this trend, then I would anticipate it's just time to pack your bags and give up because it's over. In terms of ETH, a similar situation. ETH can't really do much until Bitcoin stabilizes or dies either. If ETH follows a similar structure to Bitcoin, it would put ETH on the testing like the 1898, 1907 zone here on its trend, and it would probably leave a nasty wick down to like 1597-ish, maybe even lower. As long as we close above that zone, then ETH looks bullish still too. When we look at ETH on the weekly, it's still, I mean, it's going to do the same. It looks the same as Bitcoin. It's just going to come back and touch that 50. When we look at ETH on the daily, it's the same thing. We didn't even get a revenge push yet. ETH just fell straight through on the daily. There was no revenge push. So we'd hope or anticipate there's something, which is peculiar to me a little bit because I was hoping we'd get some sort of ETH and ETH betas push as Bitcoin kind of starts crumbling. Usually ETH lights up and then Bitcoin and the whole market dies. But this time that wasn't the case. So maybe what'll happen is we bounce off here, have a revenge push, then go sideways, and then ETH can do its thing, and then we can fully die all the way. So maybe that's something to look for. In terms of the market, if you're watching this and this is valuable, just drop a valuable in the comments so I know that you like it and if this is helping you out. And if you have any coins you want me to look at or any questions about the market structure, or anything in general, drop those in the chat too. So that way I can cover that. But overall, obviously the market's pretty down. Things that TIA has always been a good performer. It's always good for a balance. TIA is like, it'll go straight down, straight up, straight down, straight up. So it's sometimes challenging to trade, but it's in the $15 zone. Interesting thing about TIA structure though is it actually hit the 50 and bounced through. So if TIA can actually close the daily up here, there is the potential for this coin to just continue driving up. And the interesting thing about this market is there hasn't really been much of an alt season. It's just alts working on their own. They're not necessarily so attached to Bitcoin as they have in the past. So we can't rule out something like this actually happening. So when we look at TIA on the daily, if it closes the daily in this zone and this happens here and it can close tomorrow above, then I think it puts it in a decent place to actually consistently continue running. So TIA, what I would like to see is this close this daily above the 50 in this spot. Then I would like us to see it close above here or hit and bounce. Ultimately, that if we can stay above and can stay in that structure, that puts us above this daily trend. And if we can get above this, then that's beautiful. That gives TIA a lot of strength to keep moving. When we look at TIA on the weekly, TIA is just the coin that just like, it's the chosen coin. It's like, I don't know what, or I think it's because everyone's staking to get rewards or whatever, but man, it hit that $13 zone and it had a beautiful wick on the weekly. There isn't even enough data to have a weekly chart. So let's get out of this one. Let's see if it's a 3-day. So 3-day, similar structure. If that daily bounces, it'll continue driving, but there still really isn't much data. So the big thing we can kind of play off of is the weekly, which honestly for TIA doesn't look bad. If this thing can actually maintain this structure and stay above this 50 and not come through and then just fall through and die, then I think it actually has potential to keep running a little bit more. Continuing on, Apt actually had a nice bounce. It's starting to look pretty good too. The only concerning thing about this on the daily is it's not over the 50 yet. So what's going to happen here is this is basically a revenge push. Drive, revenge push, rejected, nothing. Revenge push, drive through, we've got something. So that's going to put it right above the daily trend as well. So that'll be something to watch and pay attention to. The other ones, SWE actually been one of the top performers, which has been pretty interesting because Sei has actually been above it and just kind of crushing it the whole time. This is usually a precursor to Sei running, but same thing here. Notice how it hit the 50 on the daily and it actually bounced through. This is actually a nice bullish structure. So from here, if it can close the daily in this spot, I would anticipate we either get a retest right there or it just continues driving up because this is if it can maintain, this is a pretty good structure here. We're above the 50 on the daily. We have a nice reset. Looks like the AO isn't quite necessarily where we want it to be yet, but from here, it's above the daily trend, which I like. So for me, it puts it in a good spot. I mean, I'd be looking to potentially even long this off the continuation trend off the 4-hour. So if I was looking at this one, what I don't like on the 4-hour is this candle. That's nasty. But it was able to recover. So what I might be looking at for this coin is hoping that the next 4 hour closes and there's continuation, which allows the 4 hour trend to catch up. And then I'd probably, with the 4 hour trend here, if this had continuation and it starts going sideways, I'd probably be looking for longs like here. And we just have to eyeball this because we don't know where that trend is going to be, but we're just kind of eyeballing where this would be if this had continuation. So somewhere in that zone is probably what I would be looking at for this coin, but it's one of the stronger coins of the day, which is surprising considering the capitulation we've had. Blur, another one that's been performing quite well. So if I was looking at Blur, nothing is really good for a long swing trade too, because all it takes is for Bitcoin to just catastrophically die and everything will collapse. So just something to pay attention to. But Blur, similar situation. Back up, resetting on that 50 looks decent, really nice drive off the daily. So daily looks good above that daily trend. When I come down to the 4 hour, I would want to catch the continuation off this play if it's going to keep pushing. So then that tells me that Blur pumps into this resistance line. And if it can actually clear, then that puts us here to go sideways a bit above it. And that gives the 4 hour time to catch up. Maybe it's around 0.63, somewhere in that zone that I think would be ideal to catch along on the continuation. So somewhere around like 0.64-ish. Say was someone asked for say, right? Yeah. So let's check it out. SWE looks better right now. From where I'm at, the cool thing about this one is it is sitting here on this EMA 200, which you don't get this opportunity a lot. Last time it was here, I actually bid this coin at 0.59, and that took me all the way up to 0.80. So that was actually pretty good, 80 cents, 87 cents. What I like is it's coming back above this 4 hour trend. What I don't like is it still has a lot of kind of junk to deal with. It's not quite above the 50 on the day on the RSI. On the daily, it's just below it, which is a little concerning. We're also below the daily trend. So that's also concerning. So for me, I wouldn't be necessarily interested until this can cross over. If this pushes here and rejects, we've got a more downside. So for me, it's a waiting game to see if this can cross over and actually push and create that momentum, which would coincide with it coming up and testing this daily trend as well. So that's what I would kind of be looking at for say. Whoops. So that's what it's just a waiting game. Wait for the RSI above 50. RSI above 50 closes above 50. Good spot. If it does that and it's like right in this zone, then it would make sense to maybe have a long where the entry is somewhere in here. The stop is somewhere down here, but it would make even more sense just to let it run through that and then catch the 4 hour trend as it catches up, because the 4 hours trying to coincide and come up and test this on this revenge pump as well. I bought this coin a long time ago. I think I bought it at 0.08. I bought it because it's similar to Filecoin, but it's a much smaller cap. Aleph, however you say it, but I think it was like 65 million. So I bought it because I knew it would move along with Filecoin. And actually lately it's moved really well. It's gone from, this is one of the ones I didn't call in dudes. I just was concerned it was too small. So back here's when I grabbed it because I saw the nice movement, but where it's at now, it looks like it might be starting to get a little overextended. It's kind of rejecting on the 4 hour. Let's look at the daily. It's up 20% on the daily on the day though, so you can't really complain. So we have really choppy RSI, so it's kind of, it looks like a nightmare to trade. I bought this spot, so it's just straight down, but when it comes straight down, full reset, which is good. Right back up. So I mean, that's a good thing. This is something that I bought spot. Like I said, I'm not necessarily sure if I trade this. It just looks, it's just, there's too much. It would be concerning and challenging to trade on leverage. But ultimately, it's been nothing but up lately. So it's in a decent position, 20% up. I mean, if I wanted to catch the continuation, like I said, this isn't something I would necessarily trade with leverage because it's just a little sketchy with the way it moves. But I would wait for this 4 hour continuation, which looks like it'll come up soon, somewhere around that 1961 zone. Chiliz, another one that's been a high performer. Same thing. You'll notice a lot of similar structures to these coins that are doing well. It's kind of resetting off this. It's moving off this bear div. Maybe this will reset. If this doesn't, then it just has like a triple div and just give up because it's going to die. Let's see. DYDX. Let's check that one out. I think this one got hit pretty hard. Okay, so doesn't look good. I would not trade this one. The thing I don't like, the RSI attempted to cross through and got completely rejected and fell. So now it's in a point to where it's on the way down. Doesn't look good. It's actually falling through the daily EMA 200, which is concerning. So I wouldn't necessarily want to touch this and I mean, this could be a great short if it closes below this on the daily and it can come up and revenge push here and then close. I think then this thing's just going to tumble and it's going to be a good short opportunity because now I would say the nearest support is going to be like 2.20. Yeah, that's like 2.20 zone. Ultimately, though, it's even on the weekly, it bounced, failed. Now it's starting to fall through. So if that falls through, the cards are lining up for a short in terms of where this one's at. Let's see, Sol. All right, Sol. So with where Sol's at, similar situation to DYDX, it rejected off this revenge push off the 50. It's falling through. Doesn't look quite good. It would honestly be a decent short. If it closes below this line, we're probably going to teleport down to like 71. So that's kind of that would be a decent short from there to there. It'll probably get a good bounce off here because that's the EMA 100. If it closes below that and it can't maintain that and gets rejected there, then we're probably going to visit the 56 zone. Yeah, for me, I would love to bid Sol anywhere from obviously 34, but anywhere from like 45 to 60, I think would be beautiful. So I'll probably put some stink bids down there for that to be able to catch that because I think that'll be a really good zone to catch that. Let's see what's left. AVAX. All right, AVAX. Really just not the best structure. So AVAX is doing what I said Sol would probably do if it loses this, closes below. It's going to rattle for a minute here, and then it fell all the way straight through. So now it's bounced off the EMA 100, which is good. So if it closes above that, it's probably going to it'll come back and try a revenge pump, or it'll just sit sideways. If it falls through again, then AVAX is going to head straight down to the $23 zone. I think Injective doesn't look good either. None of these look good, but for me, like bid zones, beautiful bid zone right here. Like if we have a strong capitulation, I'll probably have stink bids between like 15 and 22 on Injective. Same thing with Tia. We don't even know what it would look like down there. We don't have enough data. Let's go to the 12-hour. We don't have. So what I would be looking at for Tia then would basically be I would probably want to hit bids somewhere between like $7 to $10.50, I think would be a good zone. I'll probably layer bids down there. I think that would be great. I think in Dudes Labs, I called Tia for everyone. I called Tia as a buy around $5. I don't think it goes anywhere near that, but I do think, and it is a stronger coin, so I do think we come back and we retest this 1397 zone, and I think we probably see if Bitcoin really capitulates, we probably see anywhere from like the $7 to $11 zone. I think that's going to be a beautiful zone for that one. Let's see. Any other coins? If you have any more for me, drop them in the comments. Let me know if this is helpful. Is this helpful? If it is, just drop a helpful in the comments for me so I know that it's helpful for y'all. Let's go back to the watch list. Bid zones for me on this one, I'd probably be looking for like 28 cents to like 45 cents. That would be money. Yeah, anywhere this 40-cent zone is going to be good. I think anywhere from like 42 down to like 28, probably pretty good zone. I might layer bids down that low. Yeah, I think that would be perfect on Say. When I look at Sui, it's actually been a good performer. It looks good. We may not even get anywhere close to this, but I'd probably be looking at like 60 to 70 cent zone on that if we get a good capitulation. Like I said, Sol, probably be looking at like 60, 40 to 60 zone. I'd layer bids or have alerts on for that. Couple of new ones, Manta, some people are asking about, literally zero data, have no clue. It's hard to tell on these. Like anybody who says that Manta is going to go to $1 million is speculating. There's zero data to tell us this will do anything. We have no idea. Doesn't matter about the ecosystem, doesn't matter about the people, doesn't matter. It's an airdrop coin. We just have no clue. There's no data. We have zero ability to tell what this thing is going to do, and it's launched in the worst phase of the market. The data that we do have suggests that we're coming back up to test this 4-hour trend or this 4-hour 50 zone on the RSI, which if it clears, we'll give it legs to push. If it doesn't, it's going to just tumble for a while. Same thing with like Tau. People were asking me about this one. This one looks a lot better. Honestly, I think this one might have legs even with this bear going. So what I do like about what's going on here is we're crossing the 50 on the RSI. The only thing it hasn't been able to do is get through a lot of this supply zone. But if it does cross this 50 and we're able to actually show consistent strength, then I think we could see this one push up pretty well. Coming down to the 4-hour, it bounced and it starts to push forward. It kind of got rejected pretty hard off that one, which is concerning, but it had a decent bounce. It wicked off of this brand new shiny EMA band that just showed up because we had enough data finally. So this could be something to watch. I think this might be an interesting coin should the daily be in a position to where it can drive over that 50 and stay above and not get rejected and fall through. It's above the daily trend, which is good. So something to pay attention to and watch on that one. Wouldn't say there's too much else to pay attention to. For me right now, it's not really worth taking these little day trades and stuff like that. Like I may try to catch SWE if it shows that it's going to be strong, I can support that 4-hour continuation. So SWE might be something I would look at. Outside of that, TIA could be something that would be interesting for me if it can get back above that. Like I said earlier, if it can clear and hold above that daily, I think that might be in a decent position. SWE is actually in a really good position right now, so that's one that I would look at. Honestly, for me, it's mostly just about kind of waiting. It's not worth really putting in these little trades. If Bitcoin rejects off of here below and just starts getting sideways, I'll probably start building a position to short it from like 38 down to 35 and then potentially down to the 31 zone. So that's what I'd be looking at. When I called this in dudes, I said that we would reject off this 50, and I was hoping we'd get that 44 zone. So that's where I would have filled my bids. But from what I called, we've hit two of the take profit zone, one or two of the take profit zone. So it's been a pretty good spot. But let me know if there's any other questions, questions about the market, questions about the cycle, where we're going, where we're headed, all that stuff. Drop them in the comments if there's anything and I'll answer them. When we look at the ETFs, the inflow has been good. I mean, there's been a lot of people buying these things. So, I mean, they're not necessarily in a bad place. They look the same thing as Bitcoin though. They're just losing their 50 on the RSI. Some of them have data, some of them don't. They're all super new. It's just the inflows have been good. The only challenging thing with these is the Grayscale Trust has just had a ton of sell pressure, which has kind of collapsed the whole market. So just as a whole, this is one of those times when everybody on Twitter is going to be clamoring and talking about how they bought the dip and it's over and we're coming back up and they're going to show all these fancy things, but you don't really have to complicate it that much. Most of these people have no idea what they're doing and they're just doing it for clout. Pay attention to this. This is the easiest way to tell. If we can clear above the 50 on the RSI on the daily and actually hold above it over a period of like 2 to 3 days, so we push, hold above day 1, hold above day 2, hold above day 3, we're probably in a better zone. If we can get above this trend on the daily, we're probably in a better zone. Point of confluence 2, point of confluence 1. If that AO can flip from negative to positive, then we're probably in a good spot. Because look back here, when we went from in October, in dudes, I called it, we longed it from 26 to like 36K. So when I called the long here at 26, what was happening was we were crossing over that 50. We bounced, we pushed, fell through a little bit, but then we were able to maintain, fell through again. So it was pretty choppy. But finally, when we actually did it, it pushed. And noticed as it pushed, got above the EMA bands, got above the trend, and then that gave us the momentum to actually move and drive. So that's ultimately what I'm looking for. Everything else everyone's talking about is noise. It's it's hard to say that you bought the dip until you figure out which dip it is. And what really sucks is saying, okay, bought the dip, shit, bought the dip, shit, bought the dip, shit. And then you buy 10 dips. By the time you get to the bottom, well, you spent all your money and there's no way to buy any more dips. So that's something to pay attention to. Caspa. Yes, same thing. I wouldn't long this. I would short this. If this closes below here, it's probably going to go sideways for a minute, but then it could be a great short opportunity from 9 cents to like 7 cents. So RSI below 50, AO has already flipped negative, below the trend. Just every point of confluence adds up to this thing being shortable. A lot of these things are shortable. So something to pay attention to there. Definitely not in a position to where I would want to trade it. Decent wick here, but if it closes below this EMA 100, that's definitely a bad sign for the coin. All right. Let me know if there's any other questions. Drop them in the comments. If this is helpful, just drop a helpful down below. If you found value out of this broadcast, make sure you like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So that shows YouTube that I'm someone worth following. If you did like this and you're in the Dudes server, just go in Dudes and get me some fire Elmo emojis and tell me what you liked about the broadcast. If you're watching this from Twitter, just go retweet the broadcast that I put on my Twitter profile and just tell me what you liked about it. But that's it. That's all I've got to say. Hope you all have a great day, and I will be back next week. Remember, don't overcomplicate it. If something changes or anything crazy happens, I'll post it in the Dudes server and probably on my Twitter. So pay attention, stay strong, stay patient. Sometimes when the market looks like this, it's best to sit out, observe, watch, wait, and only get in when the perfect opportunity presents itself. Avoid overtrading. And ultimately, in this market, the most important thing isn't how big your P&L is. It's how much of that P&L you're actually able to keep. All right. Talk to y'all later.